Hey everyone, I'm working to hit 1,000 subscribers and I need your help to get there. If you enjoy this content, please hit that subscribe button right now.
The Toronto Blue Jays are sitting on a powder keg of opportunity, and it's about to explode in the most spectacular way possible. While most fans are drowning their sorrows in Tim Hortons coffee after another disappointing offseason, General Manager Ross Atkins might just be cooking up the trade that could transform this franchise from pretenders to contenders overnight. We're talking about a move so audacious, so potentially franchise-altering, that it makes the failed Kyle Tucker pursuit look like child's play. This isn't your typical trade rumor mill garbage. This is real, folks. This is happening right now, and the Blue Jays are positioned better than almost any team in baseball to pull off what could be the heist of the century. The name you need to know, the name that should be sending shivers down the spine of every American League East opponent, is Elly De La Cruz. Yes, that Elly De La Cruz, the Cincinnati Reds' electrifying shortstop who just turned down a contract extension worth more than $225 million. Let that sink in for a moment. Picture this scenario unfolding in the Queen City just weeks ago. The Cincinnati Reds, desperate to lock down their franchise cornerstone, came to the table with what they thought was an offer De La Cruz couldn't refuse. We're talking about a club record extension that would have exceeded Joey Votto's legendary $225 million deal. This wasn't some lowball insult. This was the Reds putting everything on the table, rolling out the red carpet, basically begging their 24-year-old phenom to commit his future to Cincinnati. And you know what happened? De La Cruz, through his agent, the infamous Scott Boras, turned them down cold. Just like that. Thanks, but no thanks. Now, before we dive deeper into why this is absolutely massive for Toronto, let's talk about what kind of player we're dealing with here. Elly De La Cruz isn't just good. He isn't just an all-star caliber talent. This kid is an absolute freak of nature, the kind of player who makes highlight reels every single night. In 2024, he nearly stole 70 bases. 70. Do you understand how insane that is in modern baseball? While the rest of the league is launching home runs and playing station-to-station baseball, De La Cruz is out there terrorizing pitchers and catchers like Ricky Henderson reincarnated. His statistics tell a story of a player still developing, but already elite. A 776 OPS last season might not blow you away at first glance, but context matters. The year before, he posted an 810 OPS. He finished in the top 10 of MVP voting in 2024, despite playing for a Reds team that went absolutely nowhere. Imagine what those numbers could look like playing in a loaded Blue Jays lineup, hitting in a better ballpark, surrounded by actual talent. The possibilities are genuinely mind-blowing. But here's where things get really interesting, where the plot thickens like a mystery novel you can't put down. Scott Boras represents De La Cruz. If you know anything about baseball, you know exactly what that means. Boras doesn't do team-friendly extensions. He doesn't believe in hometown discounts. He believes in maximum value, free agency bidding wars, and setting market records. When De La Cruz casually mentioned he lets his agent handle all the contract stuff, that wasn't him being dismissive. That was him basically confirming that Boras is calling the shots, and Boras's playbook only has one move: get to free agency and cash in. This creates a fascinating dynamic that plays directly into Toronto's hands. The Reds now find themselves in an impossible position. They have a generational talent under team control for a couple more years, but the writing is on the wall. De La Cruz isn't signing long-term in Cincinnati. He's represented by an agent who has never met an extension he liked when free agency billions are waiting down the road. So what does a small market team like Cincinnati do? They can hold on to him, hope they contend, and then watch him walk away for nothing in a few years. Or they can trade him now while his value is astronomical and restock their farm system for the next decade. Enter the Toronto Blue Jays, stage left, with money burning holes in their pockets and desperation written all over their faces. Ross Atkins has made his reputation on pulling off unexpected trades. He loves the big swing, the move nobody sees coming. And make no mistake, trading for Elly De La Cruz would be exactly that kind of move. It would be bold, aggressive, and exactly what this franchise needs after whiffing on seemingly every marquee free agent available. Think about the pieces falling into place here. The Blue Jays have an established relationship with Scott Boras. They've done business with him before. They know how he operates. More importantly, they have something most teams don't have right now: financial flexibility and a willingness to spend $300 to $350 million on a long-term extension. Sure, the Dodgers might be lurking because the Dodgers are always lurking, but how many teams can realistically put together both the prospect package to acquire De La Cruz and the contract to extend him? That list is very, very short. Now let's address the elephant in the room. Where does De La Cruz play? The Blue Jays already have Bo Bichette at shortstop, sort of. They've got Ernie Clement, who had a breakout season. There's Komodo in the mix. On paper, adding another shortstop seems redundant, borderline stupid even. But here's the thing about generational talents. You don't worry about positions. You acquire the best players available and figure out the logistics later. De La Cruz has the athleticism to move around the diamond. So does Ernie Clement. So does Leo Jimenez. This isn't the 1980s where everyone stays glued to one position their entire career. Modern baseball is flexible, adaptable, positionless. Imagine a Blue Jays infield featuring Vladimir Guerrero Jr. at first base, some combination of Clement and Jimenez in the middle, and De La Cruz patrolling somewhere in that mix. Then picture an outfield with George Springer, Kevin Kiermaier when healthy, and whoever else they've cobbled together. Now add De La Cruz's speed to that equation. Suddenly you have a team that can beat you with power, with speed, with defense, with pitching. You have an actual identity beyond, we hit some home runs and hope it's enough. But acquiring De La Cruz won't come cheap. We're talking about a prospect haul that would make even the most aggressive general manager pause. The centerpiece would almost certainly have to be Arjun Nimala, Toronto's top prospect and one of the best young players in all of baseball. Nimala is a shortstop himself, a toolsy teenager with superstar potential. Trading him would hurt. It would hurt badly. Fans would revolt. Message boards would melt down. But you know what? If you're getting Elly De La Cruz in return, if you're pairing a 24-year-old MVP candidate with Vlad Guerrero Jr. for the next decade, you make that trade every single time. Beyond Nimala, Cincinnati would likely demand at least 2 more top 10 prospects from Toronto's system. We're talking about guys like pitching prospects with frontline potential or position players close to Major League ready. The Reds aren't trading De La Cruz for spare parts. They're going to want a king's ransom, and honestly, they should. But here's the calculation Toronto has to make. What's more valuable, holding on to prospects who might become stars or acquiring a player who already is one? The history of baseball is littered with prospects who never panned out. For every Mike Trout, there are a dozen Brian Taylors and Brian Bannons. Prospects are lottery tickets. They represent hope and potential, but potential doesn't win championships. Production wins championships. Elly De La Cruz, at 24 years old, has already proven he can produce at an elite level in the major leagues. That's not potential. That's reality. Critics will point to De La Cruz's peripherals, arguing his statistics aren't as impressive as his highlight reels suggest. They'll note his strikeout rate, his inconsistent power numbers, his defensive metrics that don't quite match the eye test. And you know what? They're not entirely wrong. De La Cruz is still developing. He's still raw in some areas. But he's 24. He's already putting up MVP-caliber seasons, and he hasn't even entered his prime yet. The upside isn't just enormous. It's potentially limitless. Let's talk about what De La Cruz brings beyond the statistics, because numbers only tell part of the story. He brings energy. He brings excitement. He brings must-see TV moments every single night. When was the last time the Blue Jays had a player like that? Someone who made fans rush to their seats because they didn't want to miss what happened next. Someone who changed the complexion of games with his legs, his glove, his presence. The Blue Jays need that desperately. They need someone who scares opponents, who forces managers to change their entire game plan. Speed kills in baseball, and the Blue Jays have been slow for years. They've been a station-to-station, 3-2 outcomes team that lives and dies by the home run. That approach works great in July, when everyone's hot and the ball's flying. It works terribly in October, when pitching tightens up and every run matters. De La Cruz changes that equation entirely. He can steal bases in crucial situations. He can score from first on a double. He can turn singles into doubles, doubles into triples. He makes the entire offense more dynamic, more unpredictable, more dangerous. And let's not forget the marketing aspect, because like it or not, that matters in professional sports. The Blue Jays need butts in seats. They need excitement. They need reasons for casual fans to tune in and buy tickets. Elly De La Cruz would instantly become the most exciting player in franchise history since Roberto Alomar. His jersey would fly off the shelves. His highlights would dominate social media. He's exactly the kind of player who moves the needle in a market that's become increasingly apathetic toward this team. Now, while we're dreaming about De La Cruz in a Blue Jays uniform, let's check in on what's happening with the current roster, because there's been some fascinating insight into the team's mentality following their devastating World Series Game 7 loss. Trey Savage, the rookie sensation who captured hearts across Canada with his incredible debut season, finally spoke publicly about how he's been coping with that heartbreak. His answer? Hunting. Lots and lots of hunting. Savage admitted he spent most of his time in the woods after the season ended, processing the emotions, dealing with the devastation of coming so close to a championship only to watch it slip away. He confessed he hasn't watched a single second of Game 7 since it happened, and he never will. Every time he sees clips on Instagram or TikTok or YouTube, it makes him sad. It gets him emotional. This is raw, honest, human vulnerability from a 22-year-old kid who experienced the highest highs and lowest lows of baseball in the span of 6 months. But here's what matters. Savage believes the team will be better for it. That's not just cliché athlete speak. That's a competitor recognizing that failure, as painful as it is, builds character and resolve. Savage is going to be a cornerstone of this rotation for the next decade. He's already one of the best young pitchers in baseball. If he can channel that heartbreak into motivation, if he can use it as fuel, the Blue Jays might have a legitimate ace on their hands. David Schneider also chimed in recently with some perspective on the team's chemistry during that magical playoff run. He talked about how all 26 guys in the clubhouse were giving everything they had, how everyone got along because everyone was pulling in the same direction, how it was a different hero every night. That's what makes winning teams. That's what separates pretenders from contenders. Chemistry matters. Culture matters. The Blue Jays had it last season, and they need to recapture it again. But here's the harsh reality. Chemistry and good vibes don't matter if you don't have the talent. And right now, the Blue Jays roster has significant holes. Schneider himself is fighting for playing time, projected to see action only about 41% of the time between left field and second base. With Joey Loperfido, Nathan Lukes, Anthony Santander, Miles Straw, Jonathan Klass, and others in the mix, the outfield is crowded but not particularly impressive. The Blue Jays need star power. They need difference makers. They need players who change games single-handedly. This brings us full circle back to Elly De La Cruz. Is this trade going to happen? Honestly, probably not. The logistics are complicated, the cost is astronomical, the competition from other teams will be fierce. The Dodgers, as always, will throw their hat in the ring. Other big-market teams will make calls. Cincinnati might decide to hold on to De La Cruz and make one more playoff push before his inevitable departure. There are a million reasons why this trade might not materialize. But here's what makes this so compelling. It could happen. The pieces are there. The motivation exists on both sides. The Blue Jays desperately need to make a splash after a disappointing offseason. The Reds might decide that getting maximum value for De La Cruz now makes more sense than watching him walk in free agency later. Scott Boras' involvement actually helps Toronto's case because Boras loves setting records, and the Blue Jays have the money to set one.
Think about the dominoes falling. Cincinnati trades De La Cruz to Toronto for Nimmala and 2 more top prospects. Toronto immediately signs De La Cruz to a 10-year, $350 million extension. Suddenly, the Blue Jays have a core of Guerrero, Bichette, De La Cruz, Savage, and others locked up long-term. That's a championship window that extends for the next decade. That's a foundation worth building around. That's how you transform a franchise. The alternative is what? Sign mid-tier free agents to overpriced contracts? Hope prospects develop faster than expected? Run it back with essentially the same roster that flamed out spectacularly last offseason? That's not a plan. That's stagnation. That's acceptance of mediocrity. Ross Atkins and Mark Shapiro talk a big game about wanting to win, about being aggressive, about taking chances. Well, here's their chance. Here's the move that would prove they're serious. Would trading away Nimmala and other top prospects hurt? Absolutely. Would it be risky? Without question. But fortune favors the bold in baseball. The teams that win championships are the ones willing to go all in when the opportunity presents itself. The Blue Jays had that opportunity with Kyle Tucker and couldn't close the deal. They had it with Juan Soto and didn't even make a serious run. How many more opportunities are they going to let slip away before ownership and fans completely lose patience? The clock is ticking on this core. Guerrero will be a free agent soon. Bichette's future is uncertain. The window that seemed so wide open a few years ago is rapidly closing. Adding Elly De La Cruz doesn't just prop that window open, it blows the entire wall down. It transforms the timeline from, maybe we compete for a few more years, to, we're legitimate contenders for the next decade. And let's address the elephant in the room one more time. Yes, De La Cruz's peripherals aren't perfect. His plate discipline needs work, his power is inconsistent, his defense, while flashy, has some metrics that suggest it's not quite as good as it looks. But you know who else had those same criticisms early in his career? Mike Trout, Ronald Acuna Jr. Every young superstar has areas to improve. That's what coaching staffs are for. That's what development is about. The Blue Jays have proven they can develop talent. They've shown they can maximize player abilities. Imagine what they could do with someone like De La Cruz, someone with that much raw talent, that much athletic ability, that much competitive fire. The ceiling isn't just high, it's stratospheric. We could be talking about a perennial MVP candidate playing his prime years in Toronto. So where does this leave us? Sitting here weeks away from spring training, watching other teams make moves while the Blue Jays twiddle their thumbs? Maybe. Or maybe Ross Atkins is working the phones right now, having conversations with Cincinnati, putting together a package that could change everything. Maybe Scott Boras is whispering in De La Cruz's ear about the benefits of playing in Toronto, about the endorsement opportunities, about the chance to be the face of a franchise in one of North America's biggest markets.
This is the kind of move that defines careers, that separates good general managers from great ones. Atkins has made his share of solid trades over the years. He's built a competitive roster through shrewd moves and smart acquisitions. But he hasn't made the big splash yet. He hasn't made the move that makes everyone stand up and take notice. Elly De La Cruz could be that move.
The beauty of this situation is that, unlike typical trade rumors that fade into nothing, this one has legs. The fundamental circumstances driving it aren't going away. De La Cruz turned down the extension. Boras is his agent. Cincinnati has to make a decision about their future. Other teams are circling. The market dynamics are real, and they're pushing towards some kind of resolution. Whether that resolution involves the Blue Jays remains to be seen. But the opportunity is there, staring them right in the face. The question is whether they have the courage to seize it, whether they're willing to pay the price, whether they truly believe in going all in for a championship. Talk is cheap. Prospects are nice. But championships require boldness. They require taking calculated risks. They require believing that the upside justifies the cost. Elly De La Cruz represents all of that and more.
He's the kind of player you build franchises around, the kind of talent that comes available once in a generation. If the Blue Jays let this opportunity slip away because they're too scared to part with prospects or too conservative to make the big move, fans will remember it for decades. But if they pull the trigger, if they go get their guy, if they show the baseball world that Toronto is serious about winning, that's how legends are made. So buckle up, Blue Jays fans. This offseason isn't over yet. The Elly De La Cruz saga is just beginning, and Toronto has a legitimate chance to be part of it. Whether they will be remains the million-dollar question, or rather, the $350 million question.
What do you think? Is trading for Elly De La Cruz the genius move that saves this offseason, or is it an unnecessary risk that could backfire spectacularly? Should the Blue Jays go all in and trade Arjun Nimala plus more for a chance at a generational talent, or should they hold on to their prospects and build through development? Drop your thoughts in the comments below, because this is the conversation every Blue Jays fan should be having right now. And if you enjoyed this deep dive into what could be the biggest trade in franchise history, smash that like button, hit subscribe, and turn on notifications so you don't miss any updates as this story develops. The offseason is far from over, and things are about to get very, very interesting in Toronto.
Hey everyone, I'm working to hit 1,000 subscribers, and I need your help to get there. If you enjoy this content, please hit that subscribe button right now.